Hello, Bruce and Adrian. So I've had a scour around the internet and downloaded. I downloaded a couple of PDFs, large PDFs that I found. The first one I couldn't open at all because it was password protected. But this second one, Prom by example, is 107 pages, full of images and text and all kinds of things. So it's quite a fair old size PDF. There's all sorts of stuff in there that could possibly cause problems, I'm sure, when we do a conversion. So what I did was I opened the file in Studio and then immediately saved it, and immediately closed it after it opened, which creates a docx file using the Iris converter, because I've got Iris configured in Studio. And that gives me this docx file that you see here, for manual docx. And if I open this up in Word, you'll see it takes a little while to open it up and figure out where it is, because it's a big old file, so it's still working its way through it. There we go. So it's a little slow opening it up. It's a big document. There are 107 pages in here. You can see Word hasn't realized that I've got down to the bottom page yet. It still thinks I'm on page 1 of 29. And actually we know there's 107 pages in here, not 29. So this gives you some example or some idea of the difficulty in dealing with files like this, because Microsoft Word on its own is struggling to deal with the file. There we go. It's now just flicked over to show me 107 of 107. So there was a big lag there of just Microsoft Word figuring out where it was. If I go up a couple of pages, so as I'm flicking up, I've got quite a lot of pages there. If I go up like that, you'll see that Microsoft Word is struggling to keep up with me as I'm going along. It thinks I'm on page 87 of 107. I have actually let go of that button a long time ago. It's still going on. But I'm now back at the top. I'm in page 2. But Microsoft Word still thinks I'm on page 87 of 107. So this is one of the complexities and the difficulties in dealing with big files like this, particularly ones that actually contain an awful lot more than what you can actually see. So if I turn on the character controls, you can see that there's all sorts of things in here that have been put there by the conversion. There'll be lots of tags inside the XML of the Word, even where you can see things like this, for example, over here. All these sorts of things are controlled by some sort of a tag that you can't see that's there even in Microsoft Word, and it makes it hard for Microsoft Word to open that file. When Studio opens it up, Studio has actually got to show you these tags, because you need to be able to do something with the tags to control the text as you translate it, if they were supposed to be there. In this case, obviously, they're tags you don't even want in the first place, so you'd really want to clean the file up before you translated it. But all of these add to the complexity of the file and make it very difficult to open the file and do anything with it in any translation tool. Even in Microsoft Word, you can see it's quite struggling to deal with it. But anyway, that's my Word file, and I'm going to open the Word file up in Studio. So I created a little project with my Pro manual, docx, so that I could take a look at the previews and how they're performing, and maybe we can just talk about them a little bit. So I also added a language cloud just so I could get some translations going as we're working our way along. So what I'm going to do to make this easier, I'm going to take the preview window out. I'm going to put it over here by the side. That's why I've had Studio so small, sorry, on the side. Because I just want to put the preview down here on my one little laptop screen so that we can figure out or see better what's actually going on. Now I'll start off with the embedded preview. And what the embedded preview is doing is actually opening Microsoft Word inside Studio. So all of the problems and difficulties we had in dealing with that Word file in Microsoft Word are now going to be increased, in fact, because now you have all of those same problems, but inside another piece of software. That's quite a lot of complexity going on there. But I click here to generate the initial preview, and that's creating the Word file inside Studio in my preview window. So there it is. There's my preview file. Anyway, I'm just going to scroll down here a little bit to get to where the proper text starts, because there's a lot of stuff here that we're just not going to be translating. And I'll start on this segment here, segment 53. And actually, the embedded preview has worked pretty quickly. It's leapt straight to it and highlighted that segment. And if I now move down to the next segment, it's following me along quite nicely, actually, so it jumped quite quickly to that one. If I move to the next one, it's jumped quite quickly to the one after that, jump to the next one, it's jumped quite quickly to one after that. So there's no real lag there for me while I'm working with the embedded preview. I know this is a very quick test and a basic test, but that's a big file and it's giving you some idea. It's also not a very clean file, and as you can see if you look at my studio, I don't have a very clean studio either. There's nothing special about my studio. And any idea that I have developers working behind me to make sure I have a running version of Studio dealing with all the problems is, I don't know, it's up there in Fantasyland somewhere. That just doesn't happen. I have a very dirty installation of Studio. I install every beta that's going along. I have all kinds of software running in here. I have about 50 plugins installed at the moment. So, and not all of them are completed. Some of them are betas. So I have a lot of stuff in here that could potentially cause me problems. It's not clean or running in a what's the word? But running in a very smooth and optimized way at all. Yet I can still do these things. I'll go down again. You can see it's following me again. But it hasn't put the translation in there, and that's, I guess, probably needs a refresh to do that. If I was to refresh it, that's going to take a little bit of time to refresh it. But what at least it's allowing me to do is it is actually following me down the document, which is good, and showing me where I am. So that's the embedded preview, which does seem to work. There we go, now the translations are in there. It'd be better if it actually updated the translations as I'm working, and I'm pretty sure once upon a time it did that, but clearly it's not at the moment. Maybe if I test it with a smaller file later, I could check that and see if it works with a smaller file. But with this big, dirty document, it's allowing me to see where I am in the layout quite quickly without 8-second lags or even more. So I'd be fairly happy with that performance if I was translating it. I'm certainly not going to be translating any faster than I was just going down through those segments, I imagine. If we look at the HTML preview next, so I click on the HTML preview. The HTML preview is not very good, I don't think. It was put there originally because we couldn't do the Word preview for a while, because we couldn't figure out a way of doing it, because Microsoft removed the hooks when they went to the click to run installer. Now, the developers have actually managed to find a way to cater for that, but they've left the HTML preview in there. We never had that before. And that's not, sometimes it's not too bad with this document. It's flipping awful. But it does give you something you could look at, I suppose, to see the layout of the document. But what it's not doing, is certainly in my example here with this file, it's not showing the highlighting at all. So as you said already, Bruce, it's next to useless, really, if you wanted to use it as a preview while you're working. So I think we can abandon the idea of using the HTML preview. So if I then look over at the Microsoft Word preview, what this is actually going to do when I click on Generate, this is going to fire up Microsoft Word outside of Studio. So it's just going to fire up an instance of Microsoft Word, but be connected to Studio. So again, this still has to have, it still has to deal with all the complexities of just opening the file in Word, never mind anything else. But then on top of that, maintain a connection actually to Studio, which is done. So you can see there now, it now knows where I am. And when I click back into Studio, I just need to close the preview window so it doesn't get in the way. I'll just close it like that. If I now come over here and I go Alt, oops, go down a segment and drop it again. So it's now following me. Again, it hasn't taken the translation across, but it's following me down the document. It seems quite nice. Every time I do it, it's pretty quick. So I press the key, and it's there in a second, less than a second, something like that. It's not too bad. Certainly, it's following me down this document and giving me an idea to see where I am. If I move down the document a bit further, this one, oh, what happened there? Oh, I clicked on the browser behind the window. So if I scroll down this a little bit, and let's go down to where we've got some bigger messes or something. Let's just try something out. So let's go here, for example. I click in here. See what the interaction is like. There's a little bit of a lag while it's figuring itself out. Well, we got there in the end. So it has taken me down to the right segment, which is what it should do. And now if I continue going down that document, I'm having the same thing. So I'm not getting the sort of lags that you were talking about. It's a big, dirty old document. I'm not getting the translation there. I'd have to refresh the preview in order to get that. But it is showing me where I am in the context of the document, which would help me while I'm translating, I imagine, because I've got a better idea of what I'm actually doing. And that's in Microsoft Word. I think if it was me, I would be using two screens probably, not just working on my laptop in a hotel room, and I could put this preview over on another screen where it's bigger and I could actually see what I was doing. So I know that's a bit of a long-winded explanation or example of everything else, but I just wanted to give you some idea to show you that I have a pretty unclean version of Studio as well. It's certainly not an optimized version of Studio. There's a really unclean file that I've just converted from a PDF. It's a really horrible, messy conversion. In practice, I would clean that docx up quite a bit before I even tried to translate it, but I've just had to go now with all the nonsense that's in there. And it's not too bad. It follows me reasonably well. I'm not getting the same lags that you are. So I would certainly be looking at any external influences that might be causing the problems that you're having. It's not the perfect thing in the world, but it's not too bad.